Welcome to the Township Committee meeting of June 24th. Adequate and electronic notice of the June 24th, 2021 Township Committee meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and Emergency Report Meeting Protocol for local public bodies by posting the notice and agenda of the meeting on the bulletin board of the municipal building located at 1010 in Whippany, and by posting notice on Township's website, hanovertownship.com, posting notice on the outside front door of the municipal building, by emailing the notice and agenda to the following newspapers: Morris County's Daily Record, the Star Ledger, the Hanover Eagle, and by filing the same with the Township Clerk. Okay. Before we open tonight's proceedings, I would just like to advise that we have certain guidelines for our meetings. It's been a long time since we've had live meetings, and it's a good thing that we're having live meetings. Please remember to keep your phones on silent. The Township Committee will entertain comments from the public on any subject at the beginning and end of tonight's meeting. If you have a comment about an ordinance that is scheduled for public hearing this evening, please wait until that ordinance is discussed and we convene the public hearing to address that. When you address the Township Committee, please do so from the podium, directly into the microphone, giving your full name and address for the record. All speakers will be allotted 4 minutes to make a statement, either at the public portion in the beginning of the meeting, or at the end of the meeting, or when an ordinance comes before the governing body for public hearing. Speakers will only be given one opportunity to address the Township Committee. If you have a specific question, it may not be answered during the meeting. Occasionally, questions require research, and if that is the case, someone will get back to you. The chair and members of the governing body may not respond to questions already answered by other speakers. As a reminder, the regular meetings of the Township's Committee are videotaped and broadcast on Optimum Channel 21 between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturdays and on YouTube. Please note that the public meeting room has 2 exits, in the front and in the back of the room in case of an emergency. Okay, at this time, Mr. Administrator, would you please take a roll call?
Committeeman Gallagher?
Here.
Committeeman Mahalko?
Here.
Committeeman Cahill?
Here.
Committeeman Francioli?
Here.
And Mayor Faramasca.
Here.
5 members in attendance, sir.
Thank you, sir. At this time, all those members who can stand, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Deputy Mayor.
Almighty God, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Hanover Township. Amen.
Amen. Okay. All right, Mr. Administrator, communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one item of communication, which I received on June 17th. It's addressed to me. It says, "Dear Joe, it is in my email to you dated March 3rd, 2021, I indicated my desire to end my employment prior to the summer. In that regard, please accept this letter as notice of my resignation from the position of IT specialist for the Township of Hanover. My last day in the office will be Wednesday, June 30th. I will also be in the office on Wednesday, June 23rd. I never thought I would be with the Township for so many years, almost 20 years total. I have enjoyed learning about municipal government and working with such a knowledgeable and professional staff. Thank you for being flexible with my ever-changing schedule requests and for the opportunity you have given me. I will miss working for you and the rest of the Township team. Sincerely, best regards, Peter Bosnick." May we have a motion to accept the letter of retirement?
I'll make a motion to reluctantly accept the letter of retirement from Mr. Bosnick.
So moved by Mr. Faramasca.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gallagher. All in favor?
Aye.
Letter is accepted. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with our agenda, we have one ordinance for introduction. It's docketed as ordinance number 21-2021. It's approving the application and authorizing the financial agreement for long-term tax exemption by and between the Township of Hanover and River Park Residential 1 Urban Renewal LLC. Now, this ordinance will be further considered for final hearing and adoption at the next Township Committee meeting. It will not be on July the 8th. The meeting of July the 8th is being postponed so that the ordinance will be considered on July the 29th at 7 p.m. here in the main meeting room. And at that time, any resident or citizen wishing to be heard will be given the opportunity to comment on the ordinance. It is further directed that the ordinance and the notice of introduction will appear in full in the daily record as required by law. So once again, this ordinance will be docketed for public hearing and consideration of adoption at the Township Committee meeting on July 29th at 7 p.m. May we have a motion for introduction?
Motion.
A motion by Mr. Cahill,
Second?
second by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call for introduction, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Mr. Francioli?
Aye.
And Mr. Faramasco?
Aye.
Mike, do you want to change your vote?
Yeah, I do want to change it to recuse myself.
We'll just, you want to know for the record?
Yeah, that I'll recuse for that.
Okay, so Mr. Mahalko is going to recuse himself on ordinance number 21-21. So we have 4 ayes and 1 recusal abstaining for voting on this resolution, on this ordinance. Next item of business, ladies and gentlemen, the resolutions as a consent agenda. Items 6A through F. Are there any questions from members of the governing body concerning any of the resolutions?
No, I'll move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Okay,
second.
We have a motion by Mr. Farmaska, seconded by Mr. Cahill on approval of the consent agenda. Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
Mr. Francioli?
Aye.
And Mr. Farmaska?
Aye.
So approved. We have 1 raffle application, an off-premise raffle, raffle application 3309 for Villa Walsh Academy. May we have a motion for approval?
So moved?
A motion by Mr. Gallagher,
Second.
second by Mr. Faramasco. All in favor?
Aye.
So approved. Mr. Chairman, members of the Township Committee, that clears the agenda of the Business Administrator, Township Clerk. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giorgio. At this time, I'd like to get a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So moved? Second?
Okay, at this time, if there's a member of the public who'd like to address the Township Committee, please do so by, you're welcome to go to the podium and state your name and address at this time.
I guess that would be me. Diane Jones, 67 Kearney Avenue in Whippany. Regarding the recent business administrator hire, it was an unfortunate sequence of events. An unqualified but well-connected person without the minimum job requirements applied for the job. The Township
Excuse me,
Committee
Ms. Jones,
selected...
I just, you can certainly speak and say whatever you feel, but if you're, I just want to remind you, you're on the public record, and what you're saying about another individual who is not taking the job at a public meeting, that's at your own peril.
Yeah,
That's all I want to point out to you. Thank you.
The Township Committee selected that person for the job, the candidate accepted the job, and then declined the offer. So it's back to square one, months later, looking to replace Mr. Giorgio, who was rightfully celebrated at the last meeting, and apparently was looking forward to retirement, but instead is going to be working for another 6 months. Just so you understand somewhat where I'm coming from, as I may have mentioned previously, I've lived in Hanover Township for about 30 years. and generally have been very supportive of the direction that the town has been going in. You don't see me at meetings, but I do follow the news of what's going on in government, and I've supported all of you in your elections. As I may have also previously mentioned, Mr. Giorgio has been the business administrator, obviously, for all the years that we've lived here, and so his retirement and replacement seemed to be a very important decision. So what transpired has been very disappointing, not to mention that it looks very fishy. Not that I'm saying anything fishy was going on, but perception can become reality, and that's not a good look for our town. I recall several years ago, Mayor Francioli, former Mayor Francioli, helped take down someone who tried to bribe him, and I think that was a pretty proud moment for Hanover Township. Part of what makes things look fishy is that no one spoke up and said anything about Mr. Bruno not meeting the minimum requirements of the job and the consequences of that, which I kind of asked about at the last meeting, although maybe I didn't articulate my concerns that well. I still have those concerns, especially after thinking more about what was said at the last meeting. I understand Mayor Faramasca's comments about the business administrator being a business leader, and that is important. Mr. Summerall said that there are no specific qualifications for the business administrator except to express and fulfill the goals and objectives of the Township Committee. That actually suggests to me that the business administrator actually should be an administrator, someone that works to execute the strategy and objectives of the Township Committee. The business administrator should not be leading, the BA should be doing/executing, because it's the Township Committee that's beholden to the public, not the BA. At least I don't think the BA works directly for the public. Maybe I'm mistaken. But in order to execute job effectively, the minimum job requirements that were expressed in the job description do seem important. I did a little research on the qualified purchasing agent requirement, for example, and it does seem to be a bit of a big deal. Not being one is not inconsequential. But that's past. That's in the past now, and we are going to look forward. About a month ago, Mayor Faramasca, or 3 meetings ago, whenever it was, Mayor Faramasca indicated there were 25 applicants for the position. Through an open public's record request, I learned there were 3 internal candidates and 2 external candidates, although it was a little confusing, so maybe there are only 2 internal candidates that were interviewed. I was also told that there is now a new search that is ongoing. I guess none of the 5 candidates interviewed met the minimum job requirements and were also acceptable to the Township Committee in terms of their leadership and other qualifications. I hope the next search goes better. Mr. Giorgio himself, last meeting, said that it is important to break that fear of people in government who have an ulterior motive. I couldn't agree with him more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public would like to address the Township Committee at this time? Seeing none, may I get a motion to close this portion of the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Given that there's been a series of events regarding the Township Administrator's position, I'd like to speak on behalf of the Township Committee. First and foremost, the Township Committee worked diligently in an effort to address the pending retirement of an administrator who has admirably and dutifully served the township for 40 years and supported Hanover Township in becoming the outstanding community it is today. Earlier this month, the Township Committee appointed a lifelong resident, former public servant, and volunteer with outstanding management capabilities to serve as the township's new business administrator. There have been a few comments regarding the township's decision-making process and criticisms of the Township Committee. In fact, members of the Township Committee have been personally attacked and even called on the phone by these few residents who apparently have a personal stake in this decision-making process. While I'm not at liberty to discuss the extensive search and the effort that the Township Committee made as part of this process, I can discuss the public comments and hurtful comments that have been hurled against one of Hanover Township's own. The Township Committee stands by the offer of employment that it had extended in connection with the new business administrator. It's important to note, as stated at the Township Committee's last meeting, that the business administrator is a unique position that requires qualities of leadership, management, and an understanding of the goals and characters of our community. The negative and false accusations that have occurred since that decision was made are inconsistent with the spirit of our community. There have been damaging statements and accusations that have been harmful to the reputation of people and hurtful to a prominent family in our township. The business administrator, by law, has no specific requirements except that the individual selected needs to be the right fit to lead the community. There's a claim that a certain level of experience as a business administrator is required. Let me repeat this twice. Not true. Not true. This position of leadership has experienced professionals, department heads, and employees, such as a chief of police, a chief financial officer, an in-house engineer, an in-house planner, a personnel director, construction code department, and DPW supervisor to serve as our community. Those are your business professionals. There has been criticism that the individual selected is a former elected official. It is not unusual for municipalities to hire a business administrator who has served as an elected official. Previous experience serving the community, interacting and working with residents, businesses, and understanding how government functions is a significant benefit to the position. To that end, there are over 10 communities. That's right, there's over 10 communities right in Morris County, almost 1/3 of Morris County's towns that have, over the past 5 years, have a current or a former elected official serve successfully as its business administrator. For example, nearby in East Hanover, in Montville, in Florham Park, in the town of Boonton, all have hired former or current elected officials to serve as the administrator. We, as residents of Hanover Township, should all seek the same goal. And what is that goal? That goal is to support whoever is selected as the township business administrator. I've received a number of calls from residents from not the minority, but the majority, who are outraged over the fact that the selected candidate refused to accept his position. They were perplexed. They were upset, likely as a result of the false accusations and comments hurled to the candidate's reputation and the candidate's family. Remember, let's reflect. 40 years ago, this young man, 40 years ago, the Township of Hanover hired an administrator who had not served on that position in Morris County. His selection turned out to be one of the best decisions this township ever has made. Can you imagine if that never had happened? Based on residents saying, well, he's from Jersey City, and he only has a few years of experience. What does he know about Hanover Township? That committee had the foresight to choose what is best for Hanover Township. So does this Township Committee. That's our responsibility to you, and we will continue to fulfill that responsibility as we move forward. And we thank Mr. Giorgio once again for his willingness to stand up and represent the people of Hanover Township. And we thank you, sir. Okay. At this point, are there any other business comments that members of the Township Committee might have? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to need to adjourn this portion of our meeting and reconvene the the legal conference items so that we may complete those. Do you have the notice to read? Okay. I will get the notice to officially read that into the record about the Open Publics Meeting Act. But before I do that, I thank members of the public for coming out tonight to our meeting. And at the conclusion of our meeting, we will reopen again. Okay?
Excuse me, Mayor, there'll be no formal action, no, when we reconvene?
No, no, we'll just reopen. Mr. Sammer. That's not it. Let me look. Let me continue to look around here. Bear with us as we search for a document that we read into our record. Anytime we convene or reconvene an executive session.
You must have it.
You don't know this
I'll go
by
back in the room and look for it.
You don't know this by heart by now?
Let me excuse myself for a second. Back in the room and look.
Just that we're going back there. I don't know. The agenda.
Okay, we found the missing document.
Just have it recorded. Just have it recorded, just hit play.
All right. Whereas the Open Publics Meeting Act, Chapter 231 of the laws of 1975 provides that a public body may exclude the public from that portion of the meeting at which the public body discusses certain matter for which confidentiality is required as permitted in Section 7B of the Act. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Committee of Township of Hanover, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. The following matters are to be discussed by the Township Committee on a confidential basis as provided for in Section 7B of the Act. The legal conference item, carryover item B, and personnel item C will be discussed. These matters will be considered at this time, and the public shall not be admitted to this discussion. The results of this discussion set forth above to be conducted in closed session will be disclosed to the public, if possible, when the meeting is reconvened. Okay, so at this time, let us
We'll take a motion for...
take the motion to re-enter or reconvene our executive session.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
and a motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion to adjourn the meeting? No.
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
Adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Let's now reconvene our executive session.
Why is the white here? Yeah, get away from it.
When we were adjourned already for minutes.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, the quickest, it took you long to set up. Right, so you wanted to set up. That's how our meeting should always be.